2002 F-350. This has a 7.3 in it. And what we are gonna do is the oil cooler. So you can see the oil cooler right there, that it's leaking really bad. The whole bottom of this car, I mean, this is gonna be a nasty job, just because the whole thing is just covered in oil. And you can see right there where it's dripping out of there. And it's just running out of there, it's not dripping. So we gotta put new seals on the oil cooler. So what we're gonna do first is take this oil filter off, and then we're gonna crack this loose right here with a few bolts, 3 10mm I think. Take that loose and then it'll drain all the coolant out right there. And then we can take it further apart. And I'm gonna clean some of this up with a rag, just so it's not crazy. All right, don't use these if you wanna reuse the oil filter. You gotta use a band or just replace the oil filter, which is what we're gonna do anyway. Those things get tight. Just come part of the way off and let it drip. All right, I just barely cracked those 3 10mm loose, and here it comes. So this is just gonna drain, and I'm gonna let it tap this and back up this. And yes, if you drain the radiator first, it's still gonna do this. So there's just no way to avoid it. That's why I put this up here on a transmission jack. And I just let the whole thing drain before I mess with it. All right, so the next thing I do is just finish taking those 3 bolts the rest of the way out. I will unhook this heater wire. Okay, next thing we're gonna do is break that loose. Just prying it away from the block. Okay, it's away from the block. All right, so now what needs to happen is this piece has to come off of the pipe. If you take the whole thing out in one piece, it's hard to get those apart. So I pry this end piece off, and then I take the other part and the pipe out as a piece. So the first thing I'm gonna do here is leave everything connected and just pry this piece off. Okay, it's coming right off. I don't want it to fall. Okay, got a little more. Okay, so the whole thing came out from the other end, and that's fine too. All right, so here you can see where it bolts onto the motor. Oil and coolant, and then the pipe goes over to that side that bolts to the block. So next thing is we got to get that piece off, which we got to go from here and get up in there. All right, here we go. All right, so here we are. You like my try not to get oily? And then I just took electric ratchet and a 10mm and just reached up in there and took off those 2 10s that hold this piece on. So, and then you can see the O-ring in there I was talking about for the other side of that. So this is the kit. New O-rings, new gaskets. So now we're just gonna clean all this up, take the other side apart, clean everything real good, get it ready to go back together. All right, here is the oil cooler. So this bolts to the block, oil filter, block heater, and then these O-rings get real hard and stiff. You know, they just leak. So there's this O-ring, and then there's one that goes here also. and replace those O-rings, and then put this whole thing back together as one piece out here, and then put it in. Because when those new O-rings are on there, you have to use a ratchet strap, or whatever you do. I use a ratchet strap to pull these back together with the new O-rings, and I'll show you that when I get there. All right, so now we're going to put these gaskets on the engine. So what I do, clean up the surfaces, make sure they're nice and clean and flat and there's no corrosion. This one I had to clean up pretty good because it was real corroded. So I got it cleaned up, flat. Now what I'm gonna do, while I'm letting the other piece soak, is I'm gonna take a little bit of RTV and just put like a dab and a dab and a dab and a dab, and then stick it on the engine and let it kind of dry and hold in place while I finish cleaning the other piece. Then when I go to put this all back together, hopefully these will be stuck enough that I don't have to fight them too much. All right, so now on this piece, I've got new O-rings on and greased so that they'll try to slip in there. But when you use a ratchet strap, it's not that hard. But you just want to grease those things up really well. And then your other halves. So this piece has a little groove right here that goes with the pin. So we are going to put this back together and ratchet strap it. So I'll show you that. Oh, and I also put a thin layer of grease on the inside in there and on the outside, both sides, just to help it slide more on there. Take some pressure. There it went. Now you can see this is tight in this little space, and this pin is all the way back on there. Now, get this off. Now, ready to go back in the truck. All right, and here we are, bolted back on. So you can see the 3 10mm bolts, not that copper one, that's a drain, but the other 3, one there, there, and there. Block heaters back in. And this thing is back in there. It's not hard, it just slips right in. You got to kind of go around and turn it a little bit to get it in there, and then you got the other 2 10mm there. They bolt that back on. So that's all cleaned up and done. And that is an oil cooler on a 7.3. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate all the support and subscribers that have been coming. And see you on the next one.